Money in the Bank has helped establish careers. The incentive of winning the briefcase means the company values you. They want you as one of their guys, and it was a huge launching pad for Edge, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. On the other side, even though others won the title as a result of cashing in, their runs were so dull and forgettable that they were better off giving the briefcase to somebody else. And that's the point of this video. I wanted to go back in time and choose the right winners. Obviously, these are my opinions. Otherwise, I doubt all of you are going to say the same thing. 2010. In the early days of the PG era, WWE had a weird relationship with young talent. They're being pushed, but not as hard as previous years. So when 2010 came around, they got more serious about it. Several wrestlers won their first world title, and not many had a lasting impression and failed to find proper success. With Jack Swagger, he's a prime example of that. Swagger was a very underwhelming champion, although some expected it to end the same way that it did. In the Money in the Bank, there was a few options that even from that time period's perspective could have served as better briefcase holders and most importantly, better champions. Drew McIntyre comes to mind. Of course, this would lead into being overpushed and possibly would have gone worse than Swagger's. They were obviously valuing him. They were like, oh, he's the chosen one. Oh, he's going to become a huge star. Why not? This could have been a point where they could have made a Money in the Bank. Although, as I said, it's probably for the best that he didn't win it here. MVP is another that comes to mind, as Money in the Bank could have provided him that true standout moment he lacked up to this point. MVP was over with the crowd, floated around the mid and upper mid card for some time, and looking at others' booking, MVP was near the top of the list for the best choices to win this match. But my personal pick for 2010 was probably the easiest one, Christian. Fresh off an ECW run that shouldn't have happened, Christian at face value seemed poised for a huge push that would allow him to finally ascend to the main event scene in the WWE. After all, he's proven it in TNA, and while it might not be the same situation, Christian was amongst the best there with the likes of Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. So clearly there was something about him. In addition, his back was hurting from carrying ECW like my back is hurting from traveling right now. Sorry for the late delay. So 2010 was the perfect time to do it, and had it gone down, I think it would have been a standout storyline, especially if he pulled the SVR 2011 and cashed in on his best friend Edge. SmackDown for WrestleMania 26 was sorely lacking in notable talent on the top. The Undertaker was out, CM Punk was busy with Rey Mysterio, Rey Mysterio was getting injured, and Edge's face run was running dry. It was a huge opportunity to reward Captain Charisma, but I guess they didn't see it that way because his face was blurred out by a blue dot, right? 2011 provided everyone with some very surprising moments. The pipe bomb, The Rock's return, and a heel turn that was so far out. It's not the idea of a heel turn wasn't in some's mind, but the way it was executed, you just couldn't see it coming. Sort of like what we've seen the last couple of weeks. You know, people getting caught with their pants down. R-Truth decided to turn heel and turn crazy, and this led to him becoming the most entertaining wrestler on the roster. It was the definition of unpredictable, and looking at the candidates in this Money in the Bank, Truth easily stood out. Whether it's his promo on Heights or him shouting at the fans to not what him, the man was far too entertaining, and him with the briefcase would have been something else. He'd be promising to cash in on this date and then come out a week earlier just to mess with his opponent or whatever. Like, the possibilities for R-Truth in Money in the Bank are endless. Unfortunately though, his push came at the absolute worst time, as if it had happened a year earlier or a year later. Who knows? Timing is everything, and this is a prime example. You know, if CM Punk didn't have that storyline, I'm pretty sure Truth would have been champion. I just believe that. 2013. I think there's no doubts about this one. Ever since Cody Rhodes properly established himself as a single star, he was always pegged as a potential Money in the Bank winner. Looking at his runs at the time, Cody was easily one of the most deserving wrestlers, so when 2013 came around, third time's the charm perhaps. He got the fans behind him, investing in seeing him hoist the briefcase, but the match went to Damien Sandow. On paper, it's nice, but as time went on, it's obvious that Rhodes was the better choice. He probably would have successfully cashed in since there's more to do with him. Sandow was also unlucky that they were unifying the titles, and no way was he going to be the only world champion in WWE. So yeah, I feel Cody should have won 2013, but hey, a lot of these things worked out in the end, so it doesn't really matter in the long run, right? 2017. 2017, the year where SmackDown was burned to the ground, but luckily, or in this case, unluckily, they got Money in the Bank. Because looking back, I think we could easily say Raw had better talent, and in turn would have had a better briefcase holder. But that would be too easy. So who on SmackDown could have used the Money in the Bank? Well, half the talent, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, but for me, the obvious choice that year is Kevin Owens. Fresh off becoming the face of America or whatever, and I hated this gimmick, Owens tried to be the role model that America deserved. He had something going into this match, and for certain, would have been a great holder because of the fact that he fit the typical Money in the Bank winner image. A fraud, a cheater, and of course an intelligent wrestler. But Baron Corbin shockingly won it and went on to have a very dull run, which was due in part to him failing to cash in. It was a situation which he wasn't ready for, and if the rumors are believed, he was being punished as well due to talking bad about WWE doctors. Kevin Owens didn't have any of those issues. He was just world champion and was more than ready to hold the briefcase. And plus, I've never seen a bigger L than Corbin losing his Money in the Bank briefcase in a match with Jinder Mahal. Like, how does that happen? happened. The weakest WWE champion in kayfabe, Baron Corbin gets booked to lose against him. 2018. When WWE created a women's Money in the Bank, the possibilities were interesting. Were we going to see some random talent rise up and become huge stars overnight? Well, that had seemed that way with Carmella, but then she had the usual chicken heel run, and to this very day, that's her only women's championship reign. Maybe 2018 was the year. Even then, that's unlikely because Charlotte, Alexa Bliss were in this match, and as you know, Alexa Bliss, who didn't really need the briefcase, won it in order to build up Ronda Rousey's SummerSlam victory. Once again, hindsight, the year Randy Orton won his 14th title, this led to a lot of things different. But I personally feel, looking at that time period's perspective, it should have been Becky. 2018 was a huge year for her, luckily, but back in June, it was clear that she needed that little push back into the main event. The fans liked her. She was one of the most popular. Ever since she lost the title, she failed to regain the momentum she previously had because it was a Dolph Ziggler situation. Close, but never the champion. And looking at the talent here, I can't say anyone else deserved it more than her. Maybe you might say that, but me personally, I just can't see it. She was the female Sting. Everyone was turning on her. Charlotte was always a step ahead, and for a year and a half, she had nothing to show for this. Maybe Becky could have cashed in on Charlotte and they turned her heel. That leads to the man gimmick, who knows? At the end of the day, though, it worked for the best and allowed Becky to become the man and in turn one of the biggest women wrestlers, and in recent years, one of the most notable wrestlers in the world. So it's nice. In a situation that benefited nobody, Braun Strowman won Money in the Bank and then lost the title in a draw. So all the hype they did building him up as Monster in the Bank or whatever, Kevin Owens dying, it was all for nothing. And Strowman was like WWE's version of the 90s Jazz, or for my European football followers, recent time Dortmund. He's close to that title but would always come short because of something in storyline, whether it be interference, his wrongdoings, his stupid idea of cashing in a Hell in a Cell match, whatever. He had some questionable booking, and they halted his momentum. It was very inconsistent. He should have been pushed in 2017, but that's a whole other story. So looking back, one of the men I feel would have done extremely well as Mr. Money in the Bank was Samoa Joe. Now, the talent in this match was very deserving. Rusev had Rusev Day. Finn Balor needed that little push. Kofi Kingston is Kofi Kingston, but Joe back then was just something else. I'm obviously not talking about in-ring, although he did well there. His mic skills were world class. I've seen this promo on Twitter more times than I've seen my mom, and take away that promo, the way he used his words were something else at the time. He showed confidence and had this realness to him, and I know for a fact Joe with the briefcase would have definitely been better than Monster in the Bank. AJ probably gets cashed in on, leading to Joe ruling SmackDown for a bit before somebody else takes it from him. It would have been a nice thing, would have given him that world title in WWE, but it is what it is. You know, they want Strowman, and Joe started getting injured more often, preventing that from becoming a reality. 2017, Great Balls of Fire, the match with Brock Lesnar, that was a nice point. And then, of course, Money in the Bank. That would have been a great way to bring him a title. As I said, at the end of the day, Samoa Joe, he gets injured a lot, this and that. But there were some moments where they could have gave him the title. This was one of them. But as I say, it is what it is. 2019, one of my favorite Money in the Bank matches ever. A match that properly shows what WWE has been like in recent years. 7 world-class wrestlers killing each other to entertain the fans. I was immersed in the match because they were really trying to top each other. Finn and Andrade in particular injured themselves to enhance the match, and just when we all thought the young Mustafa Ali was claiming it, and I personally believed it because nobody was around, everyone was down, Brock Lesnar decides, you know what, I'm cashing in the Brock in the Bank and adding myself to the match. Unlike the Money in the Bank, Brock in the Bank allows you to choose any match without any limitations. It was kind of funny to see because you just knew it was too good to be true. Now, I will say this, Boombox Brock was fun, very entertaining, and showed that there's more to Lesnar in recent years. I loved it. However, I would still choose somebody else. And similar to 2018, there was a bunch of talent that could have done with a briefcase. My personal pick, when you look at 2019, when you look at it from that time period's perspective, is Drew McIntyre. Ever since Drew returned, he was treated as a strong opponent, and I can't really remember many that beat him. He had so much fire as a heel, and in another time, maybe, just maybe, he would have been the heel final boss of Raw. I can imagine Drew being a vicious champion who would beat his opponent even after the match finishes, but others, the higher-ups, preferred if Brock win because, well, why not? It was so weird, but then again, WWE post-WrestleMania 35 was on something, because there was 2 out of 3 falls matches, best in the world, wildcard rule. It's a whole other time period compared to everything else, and not in a good way. 2020, 2020, whatever you want to call it. Down in the pandemic era, wrestling in general was odd. AEW was out here trying out stadium stampede matches. Impact, as always, is cracked up because it's Impact, and the one similarity these promotions had to one another is the fact that with your eyes closed, sounds like you're on the hook. WWE got somewhat goofier and at the same time allowed for some deep stories, and with Money in the Bank coming up, they got creative and did a headquarters Money in the Bank match. Heading into it, there were some favorites. AJ Styles, Aleister Black, and so on. Maybe it's just those two. But Otis, of all people, won it. Everyone's thinking he's getting this push, but then The Miz convinced him to put the briefcase on the line, and before you knew it, it was The Miz who was WWE champion, and Otis was a jobber. Why? I guess it's to warn Miz. It's nice and all for him, but I personally feel it should have went a bit different. Maybe somebody like AJ Styles. Well, AJ Styles at the time was a fresh heel. Well, kind of. It was US champion, main evented night 1 of WrestleMania, which was pretty damn cool, and it was with The Undertaker as well. It was a nice villain on Raw, and as Mr. Money in the Bank, he certainly would have been more interesting than Otis, who stood no chance of cashing in. Styles could have gotten another run with the title and became a 3-time champion to add to his incredible legacy, and the way it turned out was so far out of the field, it only benefited Miz for a week. So, this is how it goes. The original winner loses the briefcase, the winner of the briefcase cashes in, and to this very day, I have a hard time remembering it. I was actually confused the other day during Miz's Misses after Raw, when Miz mentioned that he won the title. It just sounds so questionable, sounds fake. 2021, 2021, whatever you want to call it. With the return of crowds, I assume WWE wanted to start things with a bang. How did they do that? Well, Money in the Bank comes to mind. The event was one of my absolute favorites with All Out in WrestleMania 37, and kicking off the show was a women's Money in the Bank match. The result wasn't out of question, but I feel nobody expected Nikki ASH to capture the briefcase. It was truly a shocking moment, and then the next night, she wins the title. Cool. But everyone saw where this was headed. So I have a shocking moment for no reason. Personally, I'd have a couple of them win it. Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, and Naomi. For this one, we have to choose one. It's essential to this video. Let's choose Naomi. Unlike a bunch of other talent in this match, Naomi had experience holding the title, and throughout the years, she just never got the chance to do it again. Plus, there was a different route here they could have went into. Naomi could have cashed in and continued the glow stuff, or switched it up in favor of turning heel and joining the Bloodline. She'd definitely be a welcoming addition. For this one, I'd say Naomi. Nikki ASH had no business winning it here because they weren't going to push her. As I said, she was the best choice from my perspective, so yeah. Alright, that's it for this video. I personally thought, let's try something different. I wanted to do this for a couple of days. I actually thought about it with Money in the Bank coming up. We got to do something different. And I hope you guys enjoyed this because, as I said, we always try to do new things. I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to be like the same guy. People get bored of that. I don't want to be the same guy. I try to add variety. Like, I do my usual stuff, but I like adding new stuff like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. So yeah. Alright, that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the coquina clutch on the like button, perhaps the claymore on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.